Hello.
And
So,
these videos, and then I can have all these links.
are you?
I'll put my video. Hello, how are you doing?
How are you?
Yeah, they are finishing the other. I was watching the CEO guy talking, and he was saying like, "I don't have time. I don't have time. Okay, go to the next lesson. Like, go to the next speaker. I don't want people to do it. I will do a second part." So that's why people haven't connected to you yet.
Okay, cool. So, wow, I don't know, were you at the last session? Some hackers kind of joined and like I don't know what I have to do now to stop this from happening.
I don't know. I mean, it happens to me once also when I was organizing, and it was like a private meeting and we were just going from one to another. And it was also because we shared it in a Telegram group. But this one, I don't know if it will happen or not. I think they have put outside I mean, there is no possibility of doing chat now, I think.
I really
Kelly explained
stopped the
that.
chat. Okay, great. I know
So I think they
I'm
disable it,
this.
but yeah.
Okay, but the problem is, for example, you can this is what happened. Someone like other people like joined and then changed their camera to pornography. So this is still possible, and I don't know what to do.
Ah, okay, this I don't have no idea. No idea what to do.
Okay, I will wait like 2 minutes until some more people join.
Yeah, I think and also maybe Kelly or Sarah connect now and explain.
Okay, thank you everyone for
I will
joining. We'll wait like one, two
I will
minutes.
put my video off so I'm not protagonist anymore because people are already joining.
Okay, here what I can do is can I also okay, I can put here all on mute. That's useful if there's another crazy person like before. And then okay. Thanks everyone for coming. I will wait like 1 more minute. And I'm good at making up topics. So my topic is bubble. Wow. So I'll just talk about bubble freelancing. I think the first thing I did was 2018. I just PM'd people on the forum who had difficult questions in the forum, not easy questions,
Okay.
but difficult. And I got into calls with them, tried to get into calls with them. And usually 1 in 10 was someone who ended up seeing, okay, Tass is pretty good at Bubble. And so I might actually hire Tass for a Bubble job. So that's always a good way to get clients. Just look in the Bubble forum for the unanswered, really hard questions, or on Twitter and spend extra time on them. Your like goal is not to close everyone, but like just 1 in 10 people. If you close them on the Bubble forum, you've of course got enough work. And usually there's always some person who is 30 to 50, probably like many people in this call, including myself, who has just not got time to do a whole Bubble project, and therefore is willing to give the project to someone who they think is good at Bubble. Okay, and so now I think I'll just start. I will start by sharing my screen. And of course, I'm confused already by Zoom. Let's see here. So we have the Bubble Dev Day here. So quickly about me is that I studied pharmaceutical science and health management, and I didn't get any job in London because there's just so many applications per job. And I ended up getting a job due to my language because I knew German and Spanish, and they needed an account manager in customer service who spoke 3 languages. So I worked in a fintech, not in health. And then the fintech was kind of interesting. So I told them they should do like Google Analytics because I hadn't done that for 10 years and hadn't measured retention. So I got a job in product analytics, opened a new department in the startup, but still the startup was badly led. So I decided to start my own startup with a friend, but we could not find a coder. And so we needed something like Bubble to build it. And we found Bubble in 2018, back when Bubble was really slow and buggy, but it's still better than having, nothing. And so we then, of course, failed the startup, and I became a Bubble freelancer, as did my friend, because Bubble was rapidly growing during this time. Okay, what I'm working on currently on Xano backend, on lots of recursive workflows, analyzing companies using ChatGPT. My ChatGPT bill is in the thousands. And then also an AI journaling tool where I'm actually gonna show this if permitted, where people can basically write their journal daily. Here I just have a journal where I'm pretending to be Homer Simpson, so I don't actually have to write my journal, which is not recommended. And then basically AI analyzes the journal according to different parameters. There's like 5 different calls to OpenAI. And then hopefully after you manage to hold your horses, you then, after lots of API calls at this very popular time for OpenAI API calls, you then see your insights. So it kind of analyzes how often you mention your partner, family, feelings, mindset, interpersonal orientation, what your favorite words are. And then you can also, over time, see these insights. So that's what I'm working on. And now to the topic of this call is weekly changelog summaries. So what this means is that every week we want to do a workflow which measures changes in the system, such as edits or new creations of rows. And then we want to send a summary mail to the admin. And perhaps, you can imagine this can not only be a weekly workflow, it can also be an hourly workflow. And in that case, you might want to know how to restart this workflow if Bubble breaks, API latency over 1,000 milliseconds. So I'm also going to show you a restarter workflow of this every week workflow. So this every week or every X days workflow, this is actually in real coding language. This is called cronjob. Chronos means time, so it's a background activity working all the time. And here just an example, why would you use this every X days do? So you might want to update data from an external API. So, what comes to mind, every week, of course, stocks change, Bitcoin price changes a bit more, or clinical trial data changes. And then another thing in a CRM app, you might want to see every week which sales agents actually got results, who did the best, who should get promoted, or which clients deposited the most money or transacted in your marketplace that week, what was the retention like, or perhaps in an internal app, which customer service agents actually edited data. So for example, if you have documentation, then in this case, you want to see which customer service agents actually added something to documentation and might want to update their team every week. These new things were added to the documentation. Okay, so that's a background. Now we move over to Bubble. We see no new people joining at the moment. Thank you so much for you joining, everyone. Sorry about the difficulties earlier. And we move straight to Bubble. On Bubble, we might have an app. We might be inside backend workflows. And we're going to create these workflows. So the first workflow we're going to create is something which works weekly. So we're going to call it weekly cron job, sorry, B1. Why B1? Because we want to group similar workflows together. So here we've actually already tested it. So we've got A, A1, A2, A3, A4 next to each other. So they're easily grouped. Okay, and then the first action of this workflow is just to schedule itself again in 7 days. Of course, you could do anything here, right? You can do in 10 minutes, in 60 minutes. At some point, it might get expensive for workflow units, but in 7 days, it's a very cheap workflow. Okay, and now other workflows we want. And then we want the one which measures changes. So B2 measure changes in the system, which checks, other new sales emails, documentations, edits, etc. Then B3 will be the one which sends the email to the admin, informing them of all the changes. And then B4 is the restarter starter cron flow. Okay, and then we might have to add some data types. So we're gonna add one called new summary. So this kind of collects the summary, which will be written in the email. What we are gonna look at in this summary is just a list of text. So it'll be very simple. We just had this journal app. I seem to have data in this app. So it'll just be a list of words checked, which is just a list of words. And then also we might want to have a list of new words. These are the new words added to the system in the last week or month, for example. It's very simple. Of course, you could also do, list of sales, transactions, all these things. So not just list of texts, but your own data type. And then we also want this backend monitor. So it's called new backend monitor. Why would you want this? Because we want to restart the workflow if it doesn't work. So what information do we have? So we might actually have more than one workflow we want to measure or restart. So therefore we have something called a workflow name. And then we might also want the last runtime. So this is the date, this is the last time this particular workflow ran, which we want to update the whole time. Because if we update it, then if it's not updated, we will know and can restart another one. And then we might also, as the admin, want to know when this workflow failed. So it'll be a list of dates failed, because then we can quickly go into the changelog, into the logs and search for this date. Okay. And now the next part is we want to actually tell the workflow the different data types. So we go over to B1, and B1, we will of course schedule B2, which measures the changes, but we have to tell B2 what to expect. So B2 wants to expect a summary. So every week we will create a new summary. And then also every week there will be, I seem to have this will be sales data, for example, or the documentation changes. In my case, I have a data type called top 3 words, which are the words used by people in journals. And so I've just got top 3 words. This is a list. And then I might want a counter. Why would I want a counter? Because what we want to do in this workflow, we want to measure all the changes in the system in that week. So what we're going to do is we're going to iterate through these top 3 words, which might be 10 or 1,000 words, one by one, check if they've been changed. And then once the counter reaches 0, then we want to, or 1, we want to send a summary mail. So to do this, we're gonna go in B1 and create a new thing, which is this summary. So every week there will be a new summary. This will be step 1. Usually the schedule is the last step. Okay, and then we want to do a list of words checked. And this will just be all, for example, top 3 words which were created in, it can be anything you want. In this case, I have data for in the last month. So created date and then month -1. So this is all words created in the last month. And then I want 1 because this was a list of text. So this is also a list of text. Okay, and then for this workflow, we want the summary, which we just created. So we create a summary every week. We pack that summary into this workflow. We also pack the words into the workflow. In principle, we don't need this, but it made iteration a bit easier because these top 3 words are inside the summary because we saved it here, but we're gonna do it here. It's a little easier. And then the counter is how many of those words. So it's just going to be count. Okay, so we create the summary and then we take the summary, take the top 3 words and iterate through them. And what do we iterate? we will edit the summary, so make changes to thing in the summary, and then one by one we will add these words, so list of new words. The new words added in that week or that month will be top 3 words, first item, word 1, and then we add a condition. This, of course, it could also be like new sales, and then it would be the first sale, but only if the first sale was above $10,000, or all these kind of only whens you can do. We're gonna do a search for word 3s, all words contains top 3 words. At each items, all 3 words contains top 3 words. First items, word 1, and this should be fine. It's just some condition checking if that word has already been used in the past. We can, of course, also change here again the created date is greater current date time minus plus month minus 1. I think there was some mistake here. I clicked around too fast. Okay, so this makes a change in the system and adds it to the summary. And then the next thing, this is a recursive workflow. So we're going to go through top 3 word by top 3 word. So we're going to schedule this B2 measure changes. Again, we can do current date time. We can add plus a second. We can also add plus an option set to make it kind of more easily dynamic so that it's easily plus 3 seconds in all 10 workflows. And then if there's lots of data in the system, it'll be plus 5 seconds. Summary will be the same. The top 3 words will be minus item, top 3 words, first item, and the counter will be counter minus 1. So this is a basic recursive workflow. We're doing a change just to the first item, and then doing the same workflow again, but this time the first item has been subtracted. So instead of 100 items, it will be 99 items. And then the counter will be counter minus 1. But we only want to do this when the counter is greater 1. And if the counter is not greater 1, we want to schedule the email workflow. We might want to wait a bit, so you can do plus minutes 10 or something to spread it apart a little, and only when counter is 1. So basically it will keep on doing this, and then eventually the counter will be 1, and then we can send the email. So send email. What does this workflow need? It basically just needs the summary, and all the other data will be inside the summary because we're changing the summary with a list of new words. So here we can just do send email. So this can be to me, oh my God, everyone knows my email now. Or it can be also, in case you didn't know, each Slack channel actually has its own email address. That's quite useful to update a certain Slack channel. So something to Google, dear admin, this last week, current date time, there have been summaries so and so, and then words checked. And then the new ones in the last week were, and then we can do again summaries, list of new words, and then something nice we can do format as text, and then it can be this text, and then I don't know formatting by heart, so we can go here to where I've already done it, and we can do something cool like have a bulleted list. Okay, and then we check quickly. So we've got the cron job. which measures the changes. Then we've got here the summary. And here we have to also pass that summary. We can, of course, also do something like, and only when the summary's list of new words is greater than 0. But actually this happened to a client. Maybe you don't want to do this because then there's no email and the admin might be confused. Why is there no email? So we just always send it even there if there were no changes in the system. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. As a practice, I just clicked a start button here. I created one on the 404 page. Of course, you can add admin controls only when current user's admin is yes. But let's check it. Maybe one of you has been paying a lot of attention and knows that there's a mistake. We're soon to find out. Okay. We knew about this, so we clicked start. And we pray. I'm gonna go to new. Okay, 10:20, this is just now, and as we see, it worked, yeah? So we have the list of words checked and the list of new words. And then also, if I somehow get out of my browser, well, there's so many windows here. Poker, too many windows here. I don't even know how to minimize Zoom. Gosh. Could it be any more complex? Okay, it's probably in my spam for now. Don't want to share too many emails with you, but in general, we see it worked. We can quickly go back to backend workflows. And now the final thing I owe you guys is the restarter workflow. So for the restarter workflow, we want to track if a certain row, so do a search for backend monitor, if it was changed in the last, for example, week. And if it wasn't, we want to restart the workflow. Okay, so the workflow will have a name, which is called, for example, weekly cron job. And then we check if the last runtime, I think it's this way, current date time plus day. So if it ran in the last 7 days, it can also be if it ran in the last day, depending also when you start this workflow. Okay. And then depending on if this first item is empty or not, we want to restart it. So we want to schedule the workflow, the B1 weekly cron job. We want to restart that, perhaps not immediately, perhaps you first want to wait 1 day or something. So then as an admin, you have a chance to react because you receive an email. So we also want to send an email to the admin, weekly cron job restarted. Hi admin, the cron job had to be restarted at it, and then it can be a current date time. And then the other thing we want to do is make changes to thing result of step 1 to do list of dates failed and current date time. Then we know when it had to be restarted. And now we have to add this row to the database. So otherwise, of course, it won't work. So we have to go to backend monitor. Man, Zoom controls are always in the way. And then we add this workflow. We should also add the runtime. Otherwise, the restarter workflow the first time will just restart, and we don't want it to. So it's month is it? It's, for example, 03/12/2000. Oh gosh, 24 already. And then 10 AM, just an example. So now we can find this row in the database with this search in step 1. And now the other important thing is that here we always want to update this row. So again, we take the starter workflow thing here, go to the weekly cron job, maybe make this step 1 even, and then we just want to do last runtime equals current date time. So basically this will be every week. We're gonna update this backend monitor with this workflow. So just this one workflow last runtime, because by saving that runtime to that row in the database, we can see, did it actually run in the last 7 days? And then if it did not run, so if result of step 1 is, I think, not empty. Let's check what it was. Is not empty, yeah. If it's not empty, then only then we want to actually restart the cron job, send the email to the admin, and also add to the list of dates failed this starter workflow. So I think that's already it. So summing up, what did we do here? Probably I went quite fast, as people tell me in my YouTube videos. So we have a weekly cron job that every week changes in the database the data type backend monitor, where each, for example, backend workflow has one row dedicated to it with this workflow name, so we can monitor that backend workflow. And then what it changes is the last runtime. And then it creates a new summary. So every week we want a summary, for example, what words have been added to our system or what sales data has been changed in our system. And then with that summary, we run a workflow which goes through all top 3 words or all sales data or anything created, for example, in the last month or in the last week. It counts how often, how many it has to go through, if that was 100 words in the last week or 1,000 or 10. And then it schedules itself in 7 days. And then the second workflow, it checks to the summary, the first item of these things in the database will be added to the summary's list of new words added. If there's an example, if this word was not yet used in the last month. So there's a journaling app looking for new words people use. And then it runs recursively, so it runs with the first word, then with the second word, then with the third word, until the counter reaches 1, because that means we've first gone through word number 100, then word number 99, because we keep subtracting 1 word, then 98, and then it sends an email if the counter is 1, which tells the admin, dear admin, this last week there have been so and so many words checked. And the new ones in the last week were summaries list of new words, because we added to this list here, always adding new words if they fulfilled a condition. And we nicely formatted it as a text, as a bulleted list using this, I guess, code. And then that's it. And then we have a restarter workflow, because remember in step 1, we check the last runtime. And so we check, did this row in the database, was it even changed in the last 7 days? If it wasn't changed, that means that workflow weekly cron job was not running. So we want to restart it, maybe in a day, not immediately, to give the admin time to check the logs. So we send an email to the admin informing the admin cron job had to be restarted. And we also save that date where it failed, so we know when it failed and can check in the logs very easily for that date. And that was it. And so then we get in the database this nice all summaries, this nice summary, this showing the words added just in the last week and all words checked, for example. I also worked on some other apps. So in this app, what do we do here? I think it was called sales data. Okay, so here the sales team wanted an update. So again, we take all teams in the app, and then every 7 days we do that and check all teams. And then this is one a little more complicated. So we take the first team, we're checking here for retention. Was the team active in the last days? We check whether there were responses by that team in the last 60 days, or at least 3. That means it was active. And then if it wasn't, we change the team active to no. That also means maybe we can no longer send the team emails or something because they just weren't active in the last 2 months. And then we create an internal activity tracker, tracking, for example, how many responses were in the last week from that team, what was the team name, the responses last month. This is because sometimes with Bubble date calculations are difficult. So here we do save an intermediate date, the last 30 days, to then do a date calculation. And then we check how many responses in the last week per member, or per month per member. And then also we want a special note for teams greater than last month to see how are the newly checked in teams doing in the app. And then again, this is recursive. So we go through team by team doing this, creating this internal team activity tracker, tracking how often the team responded. And then we send an email. And then you can even, have different lists. So the teams created last month, as well as the team created in the last 2 weeks with less than 3 responses. So that this means the account managers or a sales team can quickly see, okay, these teams. So we can check just the internal activity trackers, which we created in the last hour, because we created this. We will create this every week. So just the ones in the last hour will be the relevant ones to show here. And so we have kind of different info for the admin to see what teams from the retention bot admin, what teams responded and which ones have bad retention, to inform the sales team, which can, of course, this workflow can, probably make this app thousands, because they know who's active and who's not. In a similar way, you can also do this with clinical trial data, checking which clinical trials, but probably I should not be showing you guys this. And anything else? I think not. If anyone wants to turn on the camera and ask any questions, you're welcome to do so. Okay, is there a chat? I think the chat might have been deactivated. I hope I did not go. I think I can actually, from everyone, I can ask people to say something if they want. But if, okay, people can chat. So yeah, if there's any questions, let me know. Yeah, I think maybe, as if anyone's bored or something, also kind of interesting workflow here is when people, you might have seen this journaling app, add things to their journal. How do I do this with ChatGPT? I think the hardest one is called topics. So here I post arbitrary text to ChatGPT with the journaling app's input. And the text might be, please evaluate the following journal entry. Given the 10 topics below, allocate points to each topic. Because ChatGPT is very bad at math, as you may have encountered. So it's actually easier, instead of to allocate percentages, to allocate points. So I tell him allocate overall, or her allocate overall 100 points. You cannot allocate less or more than 100 points, or I will leave my family. This sounds really stupid, but if I do not put the sentence, it will not work. So I recommend the sentence, or I will leave my family, however sad it may be. Yes, this session is recorded. And then points will be allocated depending on the topics. And then I can also tell as output, list each of the topics, then the points allocated in square brackets. So I can kind of try to tell him or her the response. Then one sentence explaining your reasoning, for example, and then I give an example answer with the exact setup I want, because this makes sure that ChatGPT definitely gives the right and similar output. So again, I kind of explain at the start something, then I explain kind of a list, and then the output wanted, and then an example output. This seems to work quite well if this is how I formulate my response. And then I wanted the square brackets. Why did I want them? Because then I can do result of step one's first item, and then I can split by the square bracket. And that splitting by square bracket helps me take the right topics for each number. Here I split by the 10th bracket, and then I have all this data, and it works, and it costs about like 1 cent per call. So it's actually not that expensive. But yeah, this is just for you. Of course, another option is also this I do in Xano, for example, for a client, to actually tell ChatGPT as output to give me JSON, because JSON is also a bit easier to handle than random text output, which has some square brackets, which I told it to put in. But I made this app before I knew that tip, so you learn over time. Okay, cool. Hope everyone learned something. And yeah, if you have any questions about getting clients as a freelancer, negotiations, strategies, or Bubble or Xano, PM me. Happy to help you guys or girls. Thank you. Good day. Thank you for the event also, Sarah and Kelly, for organizing this.